Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel, Vic's Backyard Chicks. I'm Victoria and I am here with another video with some tips and tricks on how to keep your hens or roosters, how to keep your chickens nice and cool during this terribly hot summer. I live here in Texas and it has been insanely hot. Hot enough to the point where we set out a fan for our chickens. But I'm gonna give y'all some tips and tricks that work for me and my flock. So I'm gonna let you know what we did when we were out of town for 8 days. So there was a heat wave while we were gone, and what we did really helped our ladies out. So stay tuned, we're gonna start with some tips. Okay, so here's our fan. This is just your typical workshop fan. I personally think having fans out all day is a little bit extra for hens, but here the heat has been like over 100, at least 105 on a lot of the days, and the heat index has hit, I've seen like 120, 119, so that's just ridiculous. It's way too hot. So this helps provide really good ventilation for our hens. We have an extension cord plugged into our wall out on our patio, and keep in mind that when it rains, you turn it off. You don't want to start a fire or anything. So when we know rain is coming and I have to leave, we will turn the fan off and put it under the covered area. But we haven't had much rain. So this is something we did when we got back from vacation. Our hens actually did slow down on laying during the heat wave. And literally within a couple of days of having this air for them, they started laying a lot more again. So basically, I'm just gonna turn it on. And I just set it right here. We have chicken wire so they can still feel all the air. And I try to point it at the coop door just to try to have some airflow going in there. We haven't put a fan in the coop, but it cools down at night. It's cool enough for them to roost and have a good night's sleep. So that's one thing you can do. And we'll go into the next tip. All right, so the way chickens regulate their body temperature is through their feet. One thing that helps them really cool down is that they can simply just get their feet wet. So if you can see here, I have this potter plant. I just wanted to show y'all this because I want to show you guys how dirty and muddy and I guess poop it gets. So you do have to clean them out pretty often. You want the water to be nice and fresh. And I also have a standard kitchen pan that's really old. So these are just shallow areas where they can just stand in it, put their feet in it, and they'll just stand in it until they cool down, then they'll hop back out, and the ladies all interchange. One thing I did too was fill this up with water and I put it in my freezer, and it was just a little ice tray that they were able to stand on as well, so that works too. So let's rinse these off, and then I'll go fill them up in the coop with you guys. So you want these to be as fresh as you can keep them because they do drink out of them as well, and it's important to have fresh water for your chickens, especially when it's hot. You don't want to have old, steaming hot, dirty water. That's not good. All right, so I have my hose here. I rinsed off the pans. My hose is stuck, but I'm just gonna go in and I'll tell y'all now, I do in the summertime will wet the floor because it dries up super fast, and it's also another way for them to keep their feet wet and cool them down if you just simply just spray the inside of the run. So follow me in here. Well, you don't have to come in, but so I'm okay with getting the floor wet. And we're just filling this up with fresh water. If you notice, I have both hands under the shaded area. You want it, the water just to be able to stay cool and not evaporate as much. If it was directly in the sunlight, it would get really hot. And we can just dampen the ground. It's already in the evening here, so it's not that big of a deal, but I'm just showing y'all what I do. Okay, so here's an example of our barred rock Dixie cooling down those feet in the water. This one is more shallow than the other pot, but you get the idea. Oh, they're cute. All right, so now I'm just gonna show you guys what we did while we were out of town for 8 days. During the heat wave, we had to go to a wedding. But just how I showed you guys with the thinner pans, we did the same thing, but instead we had this baby pool. We filled it up about halfway, just enough for their legs to dip in. And I'm not gonna show y'all right now just because it's not necessary, but we filled it up with water, had it in the run. We had this for one reason, that they could cool down. Second reason is to make sure they didn't run out of water. We have their 5-gallon water and a 3-gallon waterer. And another water, we left out as much water as we possibly could, but this just gave us that extra security. I will say, some of them like to roost on the edge of this, which was super cute. But when we first put it out, they were very hesitant of what it was. So I had to physically grab them, pick them up, put them in there so they knew, okay, this is where I can cool down. That was one thing we had set up. Luckily for us, we have a friend that lives like 5 minutes down the road, and he was able to come check on our chickens every 2 to 3 days. So he was able just to make sure there was water and food. We had left out a ton of food. He would come let them free range. So that was a huge help. If you can have someone come check on your chickens, do it. We also bought tons of bags of ice, so he would put some ice in their water to keep it colder on some of those days as well. All right, so as you can see here, I do have, since I was talking about ice, I have a bowl I filled up with water and just threw in my freezer. So this serves as a big ice block for your ladies. And then I also have an ice tray here that I refill every time I put ice out. I try not to do ice too often, but when the heat index is like over like 105, I definitely try to put ice out there. To me, that's just like ridiculously hot. Well, I did the ice trays because you don't want to go 5 bags of ice all the time. So this has worked out great, and this ends up lasting a while, and it also just keeps the water cold in general. We'll put it in those trays where their feet go, and they can stand on it, they can pick at it, and then I'll usually put ice on a tray or mix it in their water just so they can have access to colder water. Another tip I'm gonna say is always make sure the water is nice and fresh. Don't let it get too hot or nasty, because they need that fresh water to stay hydrated. And then as you can see here, another tip that you can do is giving your chickens fresh fruit. You can even put it in the fridge and make it nice and cold, but things like melon, watermelon are extremely hydrating, and it's just a nice treat to give your ladies. So let's go see how they like it. All right, so I have my watermelon here, watermelon scraps as well. If you ever have any fruit scraps, throw it to your chickens. They will love it, and it'll be that extra nutrients and hydration. Except for strawberry tops. I heard strawberry tops are bad, but do your own research on that. So we're gonna go in and give them some of this watermelon. And I want y'all to see how they like it. You can follow me. Come on, girl. So here we go. They don't like to share, but they do. They love watermelon. And let me give y'all a close-up. They will eat it down to the rind. I'll need to flip that one over for her. It's a party. Hey. Okay, so another tip that's super important to help your ladies stay cool is make sure that they have ample shade, access to a nice shaded area throughout the entire day. So we strategically built our run in this back corner because we knew that there was a lot of trees. We also have a shade cover for extra shade too, also help with the rain. So they have access to shade 24/7. They can also get in their coop if they want. So shade, very important. Okay everyone, well thank you so much for watching my video. In conclusion, tips to keep your chickens cool in the summer heat is A, fresh water often. B, keeping some shallow water in their run or their coop so where they can dip their feet in and help regulate their body temperature, and providing some fun fresh fruit for them to eat and help hydrate more. And also ice helps too. If it gets super hot, giving them ice helps, and then also making sure they have enough air ventilation throughout the day. One thing I want to add in too is make sure your chickens have plenty of shade. Shade is very important. Our chicken run is set up under some trees. We also have a shade cover too, so they have shade all day. So that helps keep them nice and cool with the airflow. It's perfect. So I hope that you guys are surviving this summer heat, and let me know if you have any questions, comments, concerns. Please type them down below, and I'll also have some cool stuff on Amazon linked below as well. Thank you. Have a great day.